it's Nachi, Kabardino-Balkaria, Dagestan, it's Azerbaijan and Shirvan. This is the main places where the Gorsky-Kavkazi Jews they lived. And all the cultural attributes that we were talking at the beginning of the class, such as for example, Oshik Rahi. I'm just giving you an example. Who knows what Oshik Rahi is? Anybody? Please raise your hand. Oh wow, we have a real Gorsky class here. Okay, where the Oshik Rahi comes from? Why it's Yiprahi? What's Yiprahi? Yiprahi is galuptsi, right? It's like a stuffed cabbage. And there is a lot of liquid. Why Gorsky women decided to make this food? Just like Ashkenaz decided to do gefilte fish, Gorsky women decided to do yiprahi. So why? Because when you put it, you need on Shabbat daytime, you need to have a hot food. So how in the world are you going to have a hot food throughout the whole night? Everything is going to burn. So they decided to come up with the food called yiprahi, with a lot of water. In the morning, the whole water is boiled out, and the yiprahi stays full. You could eat it hot food in the morning. And so now we have a cultural attributes. That's what, again, I'm coming back to my spices. So now we have a cultural attribute called yiprahi that adds on our Shabbat table, which is a meat. Being a Jew is a meat. Cultural attribute is yiprahi. It's an idea. I will tell you why I'm talking about it. There's hundreds of cases. I could go on and on about Gorsky history and Gorsky cultural dress. They lived among Muslims. They needed to cover. There is such a law of tzniut. Woman lady is supposed to cover her hair. Married woman lady, she's supposed to cover her hands. And then there are ways. This is how the Gorsky ladies would dress themselves. It's not just because they live among Muslims, but because in the Torah it says you have to cover yourself. Now the question is how to do it. You're first and foremost, you're a Jew. Second of all, how are you a Jew? Okay, we're all on the same page? Good. Now, let's look at the language, the Gorsky language. Gorsky language, not only Gorsky language, any community that was formed after the destruction of the Beit Mikdash had their own language. We all know our main language is Hebrew. But then there was a spoken language that each community developed. Like Ashkenazim have Yiddish. Bukharian has Bukharian language. Georgian has Georgian language. Every community has their own language. But each of those languages has a root in Hebrew. Look at the Gorsky language. For example, the word Chudo, God. Chudo in Hebrew is Chad, means one. Just again, this is samples. This is like we could go on hundreds and hundreds of samples. If you look, for example, the word Adomi, Adomi is a person. From the word Adam, it's a man in Hebrew. Every single word in Gorsky, or for example, the word Nefes in Gorsky, to breathe, in Hebrew is Nefesh. It's a breathing. Every single word, not all of them, but a lot of words are rooted in the Hebrew. So what I'm talking about again? We're talking about meat and spices. We have Gorsky's rabbis. I'm not going to go through all the Gorsky rabbis. I just want to point out one main rabbi that we have, Rabbi Yaakov Yitzchaki. He was known because he lived about 100 years ago. He didn't see Kaf HaChaim, he didn't see later Sephardi Poskim. He is known because he wrote his own sefer, Hilchot Alachot, laws of the Gorsky community on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. On those two holidays, and this is why we know a lot about him. Again, there are so many details. I know my time is limited. I want to speak a little bit about ourselves here in America, but maybe another time we could spend another time. Okay, for example, Gorsky carpets. Gorsky carpet has, if you look at on each carpet, like not on each, on a lot of carpets you will see design of two birds facing each other. Where is this coming from? In Beit HaMikdash there was such a thing called kiruvim. It's actually in this week's parsha. Kiruvim ki ravya. Ki ravya, like there were like two birds that facing each other. Gorsky people we know to be doing carpets, right? So where they would get, which theme should they put on carpets? You would find themes of menorah. You would find themes of Kiruvim. You would find things from Beit HaMikdash. So Beit HaMikdash is meat, is that Torah. How you want to do it? You're going to expose it on the carpets. This is our spices. This is what we bring on the table. When we come to the whole Jewish community, and every community is going to show what they have. So now we live in America, And when in 1991, when Soviet Union broke down and the Iron Wall fell, Gorsky people left Kavkaz. And that was the last time when Gorsky people lived together as a nation, as the ethnic group together. Since then, now we're in Russia, we're in Israel, we're in America, we're all over. And unfortunately, in each place, Gorsky people formed their own unique way of being Gorsky. The spices are gone, unfortunately. And when I personally came to America and we started doing all our work, you know, this was one of the challenges for me personally, to go through and show, you know, we have such a rich customs, such a rich traditions. How to hold that? How to bring that back? And then I realized you cannot hold that if you don't have meat. You cannot hold on spices when you don't have actual meat. First and foremost, you need to be a Jew. You need to know what's a halacha. You need to know what's a basic rules, basic beliefs in Hashem. And then you could know about your spices. Not like no, but develop that. So we're gonna get to that again. I'm going very, very fast. There's a lot to say about each slide here. But according to statistics, it says in the United States it's 10 to 40,000 people, Gorsky people. Again, I'm not sure if this number is right, but I just decided to put it. It's from Wikipedia. According to our personal calculation, we think it's 10 to 15,000 of Gorskys in Brooklyn. And when we're doing like in the zip code, like majority of the people we see, it was in Kensington, Midwood, Ocean Park, right here. So basically in 2001, we built a Gorsky Shul. Gorsky Shul was formed before in Chabad place on 19th Avenue, but we're going straight to the Gorsky Shul. I just want to say what we've been accomplished and how it's been done. So the first and foremost thing, we built the Gorsky synagogue, which serves as the center of the community. Before that, there was no sense of belonging. Gorsky people would live in Shipshead Bay, they would live in Far Rockaway, and if somebody would ask you, who are you? I'm you know, like Bukharians, you know, like Georgians, you know, like, and they would start explaining them based on some other cultural attributes, but nobody knew what Gorsky Jews. And they knew us as mountains, like whenever we would come, because my friend Vadim Alhasov, when he built the first website called Juhuro.com, if you remember, Juhuro.com, it would say mountain Jews. I fought with him so much, I said, listen, we're not mountain Jews, let's call it Gorsky Jews. And then we thought, you know what, in Israel they call us Kavkazi, in Russia they call it Gorsky, means Gorsky Yevrei. So I said, let's call it both Gorsky-Kavkazi. Whoever, if people came from Israel or from Russia, both of them will have their identity. So when it would come to, let's say, to UGA or any Jewish organization, they would ask us, who are you? Who are the mountain Jews? Like, you know, like, and you're like, not the mountain goats. Like, it was such a weird name. So, and I said, listen guys, there is a word kosher came to English and became an English word. Now Americans also say, is this kosher? Like, meaning like, is this okay to do? Right? So I said, the same way, the word Gorsky could come to American world and be known as Gorsky Jews. So, yalla, let's go. So Baruch Hashem, it worked, and we kind of changed that stigma from mountain to Gorsky-Kavkazi. It was one of the things to go through to be known not as mountain, but as Gorskys. And then, how to form our own cultural attributes here now. We have a lot of elderly people in Gorsky Shul on Ocean Park in Avenue C, and that's actually the good part of it, that they knew a lot of customs, what's been happening back then in Kavkaz. So we were sitting and asked them, hey, how did you do this? Hey, how did you do that? So through that, we were able to some kind of, we would, of course, discuss with Rabbi, is this a kosher thing, is not a kosher thing, is this a kosher way to do or not? Because by Gorsky Jews in Russia, both was killed. Not only the spices, but the meat was taken away. The Judaism, the whole idea that like a basic practice, Shabbat, Kashrut, Tefillin, again, candle lighting, all basic things are gone. So all our parents, of the kids, the parents of your parents, when they came here already, they were already Russian type of mentality. So they already lost that original idea of being a Jew, having piece of meat. Forget about spices. So that was a big challenge, and we weren't sure if the things that we're going to do here as Gorsky customs are kosher. So Baruch Hashem, we have rabbis that helped us, and we each step we did. For example, look again, example. For example, to start when Avel is here and a person is mourning and he's in the shul, in any Sephardic shul they will say Tachanun. For example, it's an example. In our shul, Gorsky men came and said, "No, we didn't say Tachanun. We didn't say this special prayer." So we decided, no, Rabbi, we asked Rabbi, is it a kosher thing, like not to say Tachanun in shul when there is Avel? And the rabbis found there are sources for this. So Gorsky people, they weren't just making up things. It's source. There are rabbis who wrote such halachot through the Torah. In the Torah it says that. So we kept that. And there's a lot of other halachot that we formed in the community, in the shul, the way we went. So this is our specific way how we formed in America our own Gorsky customs. And I'm sure in Germany they have their own specific way. In Moscow it's their own specific way. So there is no more in the world one unified Gorsky-Kavkazi central that everybody do the same and live that life. But one thing for sure I want to tell you, the tendency of people doing tshuva and coming back to their roots, it's not only here in America, it's all over the world. We see that the youth, a lot of people coming back to their roots and they getting back their meats. Right? So when we're coming back to our mission, when we're sitting at the beginning of the formation of the Gorsky Shul, we're thinking, what should be our focus? Where to see? People would come to me and say, we need to make sure our kids dance Lizginka. Like, hello, Lizginka is spices. You're missing basic thing. People don't know what Shabbat is. So there was actually one person who said, who needs Shabbat? What are you talking about? That was a big challenge. You're dealing with people. The leaders of the community were people who were thinking the main thing is the Gorsky, our language! Who is going to speak your language? I'm being honest with you. I speak Gorsky language. I talk to my kids in Gorsky. I try. They answer me back in English. But at least they understand what I'm asking from them. I'm all for spices. I'm all for it. But let's be realistic. The most and foremost, we have to focus on our meat. Who are we? We're Jews, it's number one. So, the focus was to integrate our community into the American society. Number two, to provide essential Jewish life cycle, services, prayer, people, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, brit milas, burial. This is where our shul was busy. And it's like really a lot of, like Ephraim said, a lot of things has been done behind the scene that's not seen. Right? It's like so many hours is spent because there were people like you who came and just put their time. They came and they did something for the community. That's why so much was accomplished. Thousands of people were touched. Even older people like Rabbi Yosef, Frank, Ariel, I will name all of them, Rabbi Shachon. All of the people, they didn't do it for the money, they didn't do it for kavod, they did it because they want to do it. And Baruch Hashem, nowadays we already on the next stage, in the next step to move on in our community. So our last two goals is the outreach. What the guys are doing here, and Baruch Hashem, it's very successful. I want to give a bracha, it should be even more successful.
Amen.
Right? And of course, the last thing is to provide needed assistance to the families. It was like people come to shul and say, listen, help us with the paying rent, help us with sending a child to, he's on drugs, he needs medical. There's so many financial help needed in the community. That was another challenge, but it became as a focus. Whenever there is a need, it turns into a focus. Now you have to supply that also. So in the outreach, we were very successful, Baruch Hashem. We started doing program after program. I'm sure half of you went through some of those programs with women's circles and leadership and teen boys and girls and holidays and Purims and Pesach, and I'm not gonna name, it's just because this slide is has to be. I had to show that in UGA. I'm just going to flip it over quickly. Women's circles and Pesach packages and Sunday schools and Purim celebration. And of course, the highlight was the purchase of the big lots next to the shul. You all know about it, I'm sure. In 2014, we decided to fundraise and expand the shul, to build a bigger shul with a catering hall, with the educational center, with yeshivas, everything possible that like a community center will need. And Baruch Hashem, we had this original lot 89, we were able to buy 2 more additional lots. So, and right now we're actually in process. This is the 2 lots and this is the 3rd lot. We're in process of rebuilding this, putting it, making it to a legal shul. Then we'll move our existing shul to there, and we'll build on these 2 lots. If God willing, we will be able to buy the corner lot. We'll build on all 3 lots, and eventually this place will be turned into the child care. Because we realized that without children we're nowhere. Okay, so this is just a bird view of all 3 lots. It's not a good picture. Okay, this from the corner. Okay, this is the challenges. Challenges was, again, whilst I was saying about to get the actual meat on the table. What does this mean? Years ago, a mechitza was such a news for people. To put a mechitza on the dance floor, like, hello, what are you talking about here? We're you know, intelligent people. We're not from, anybody who speaks Gorsky. Okay? So, one woman told me, you are such a good boy, you really to герофанатик помощь мне. Я говорю, а что значит нихуй герофанатик? You know? So, Baruch Hashem, nowadays where the community is holding, people know what's kashrut. I mean, 90% of the weddings is kosher weddings. Again, I'm not focusing on the negatives. There's a lot of negatives in the community. I'm not telling you that people come undressed, dressed. We're looking at what is accomplished. And we want to see what could we do more. Baruch Hashem, 90% of the weddings nowadays is done kosher with the kosher meal on the table. In my time, 15 years ago, I would come to the wedding, would sit and there's airplane food, you know, like, it's a kasherni tam sudят. So the religious life really changed. And I think it's Baruch Hashem, it's a big accomplishment. Now we're getting back. These spices that we're talking about, now we could talk about it. Now we have what to talk about. Now we have with whom to talk about it. And we need leaders in the community that will come and say, I want to do it. Everybody could close their eyes and just say, you know what, let the other guy do it. Those guys that stand in the back, let them do it. You know? But who said that they have to do it? Why not you? You know, people think by giving, they're going to lose. In Torah it says, the mitzvah, when we do something, when you give, you're really gaining. Hashem created us proactively. Hashem doesn't want us to just gain. Whenever you gain too much, you take, it damages you. The biggest thing for a person, for you, Hashem created us in such a way that you give. You know, in Israel there is 2 type of water. One is called Kinneret, one is called Yam HaMelech. You know Yam HaMelech, you're going to go to Israel, you're going to see. The Dead Sea. Why it's called Dead Sea? Such a weird name, Dead Sea. Because there is really no life in it. It happens to be Dead Sea is the lowest place in the whole world. All the water from Kinneret, from the, you know Kinneret, everybody? It's up and north. All the water from Kinneret slowly coming down to Yam HaMelech, to this Dead Sea. And in Dead Sea, with the centuries, the water stays there, the water comes. Eventually, all the water stays, it takes all the mineral from the bottoms, and it turns into the salt. So this water is damaging itself. Whenever the water is giving away in Kinneret, there is always the water. But in Yam HaMelech, it's salt. So whenever the Kinneret gives away, the new water comes to it. Hashem says new water. But when it takes only, it turns into the salt. It damages you. You know who is doing bigger chesed, bigger mitzvah? A cow that gives the milk, or the little cow, the calf that takes the milk from the cow? Because when it's too much milk in the cow, the cow starts suffering. It's not good for the cow. So we understand from this, by giving, we're helping ourselves. Giving is taking. By giving, by making this world a better world, it's good for you. Don't think by me not giving away, let me see, somebody else will do. You're damaging yourself by not doing it. The greatest thing you could do to yourself is to give. It's everywhere, will be in the whole life. You trust me, I'm a little older than you. You will see in marriage, with children, at work, at school, wherever you go, the focus, you have to have a focus, and you have to understand, if you're not giving, you're damaging yourself. And especially in community life, where in our community, it's so needed. One person could change the whole world there. It's so needed. Because we could count us here on the figures. We're saying big numbers, 10,000, 50,000. But where is all this 10,000? Out of 10,000 people, Gorsky people, only 40 people came. Baruch Hashem, 40 people. But I'm saying, we need more actions. We need more people to go and do something that's not only good for you, but for community. And not only good for community, but for you. I will finish, I guess, what is it? What time is it? I have still time? Yeah,
you just want to leave questions. We have 5 minutes.
Okay. Few more challenges that I went through is the clash of mentalities. Look at the Gorsky babushkas, our babushkas, right? Our mamas. How they dress and how our Gorsky teen girls dress, right? There was such a mentality of people. There was another challenge that we went through is how to build the bridge between the two. These people with kelahoyi, you know what's kelahoyi? Okay, whatever. So with kasingas, and these girls, again, I guess it's not seen. These girls are our modern days girls, right? And these speak Gorsky only, maybe a little Russian. This speaks only English. There is no connection between the two. So through our program, there was one of the ideas, one of the focus. That was really challenging to build the connection between the two. There were problem kids would come, completely don't understand what Mama is saying about, and Mama would come, "Oh, меня не слушается!" Right, like the whole controlling Russian and empowering thing. That was very challenging for us in here. And last, I would say, the need and ability, the needs in the community is so much. There is like so much we could do. People come with so many requests, and the ability, the only one, Baruch Hashem, it's a second shul. But we need to serve so many people. This is a big challenge for us. We need to serve so many people. There's so many people in need. Not only financial, it says, if you could help one person with a simple thing, not a mitzvah, not to just call him for Shabbat. The simple thing, somebody called you, can you lend me $100? That's a mitzvah. To help another Jew, that's a mitzvah. And we have a big need for that. And Baruch Hashem, again, thanks to those people that put so much time and effort, we were able to come to today's day. And I wish we would have more of those people being produced. But I would finish with one Gorsky proverb. Those who speaks Gorsky. It says in Gorsky like this: Lap, Torika Shevesh, Sabach Yiste. Anybody wants to translate? No. Okay. I will just translate it myself. Even the deep, darkest night has its own dawn, has its own sunrise. What does that mean? It means you think you're in such a darkness, you think there is no chance. Gorsky people in 10 years is not going to be even on a map. It's like we're in such a dark situation where nobody's going to even know about us. But I want to tell you guys, even the deepest, the darkest night has its own sunrise, its own dawn. There will come a moment, Baruch Hashem, we're already getting to the sunrise. There will come a moment when we will hear and know even more about Gorskys, and I hope and I know it will come also from you too. I want to finish with my personal story, what made me and making me very often, you could turn on the light actually, very often do all of that. I want to share you a story that happened to my friend. His name is Avyatar Ruvinov. He's a Chabad Shliach in Moscow. He's a chief rabbi for Kavkazi Jews in Moscow. And you know Chabad Shluchim, Chabad organization? You know the Lubavitcher Rebbe? Okay. So every year they make a conference of Chabad Shluchim here in America. A lot of people come. All the Chabad Shluchim, Chabad emissaries come. And he also came. When he came, he got a place in the basement. And each year he would stay in the basement somewhere. In Russia, it's not a normal thing to be in the basement. You know, like we you know, we probably know. Like, who lives in the basement? Come on. And when you give somebody to sit and to stay, you give a place to stay in the basement. That was a weird thing for him. One year he said, I came and they gave me a place to sleep on the 3rd floor in a beautiful place, such a beautiful bed. I'm like, I'm in the Kavkaz home here. Like, there's a really, really good place here. So he decided to talk to the man, to the owner, and the owner started to say the story. He said, I want to share with you what happened to me 35 years ago when I came to America. I was a doctor. I had a lot of experience in Russia, and my wife, we were very educated people. We became religious, we came to America, and we opened our own business. We lost a lot of money, and I was in big debt. So because of that, I had to live in basement. I lived in basement, and my wife psychologically could not take it. We lived in Moscow in such a beautiful house. You know, you open the porch, you have a nice yard. Here I came in America in a little basement. Like it's psychologically hard. For Russian people, I don't know, in America it's a normal thing. Everybody lives in the basement. A lot of people. So he said, my wife told me I can't take it anymore. I don't know, do whatever you want to do, take me out from here. So he said, I decided to write a letter to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. In the letter I wrote like this: I want to go and get to live in the 1st floor. 1-bedroom apartment, but 1st floor. For that, I need to get a 2nd full-time job, literally kill my back. Work from 5 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock, then take another job 3 to 12. 2 full-time sets. I have to work 2 full-time jobs just to afford the 1st floor on a 1-bedroom apartment, so that I will be able to also pay my debts. What should I do? Should I stay in the basement and not kill my back? Or should I go to the 1st floor? Guess what Rebbe wrote back? I didn't guess. Honestly, when they asked me the question, I said, Rebbe wrote, Baruch Hashem, Baslacha Rabba, go take something, you know. Rebbe answered with 2 words. In Russian, I will say it in English. I just want to hear, what would be the 2 words? Anybody? What would Rebbe say? A person is in the basement. He's saying, I should kill my back, go live in the 1st floor, or I should stay in the basement and keep my health alive. What's worse? It's really crazy to be a leader and to answer. Do both? How could you do both? Either you're in the basement, either you're in the 1st floor. What would you do, guys? Please. I'm sorry if I'm screaming. I'm really emotional. Anybody? Any ideas? No? Okay, I will say. Rebbe wrote an answer like this. Rebbe said, buy a house.
Wait, what?
Buy a house. Do you understand what he's saying? A person is asking question if I should be in basement on the 1st floor. I don't have money to live. You're telling me to buy a house? Buy a house! Come out from your basement! Come out from your 1st floor! Don't be there, you will always be like that. Look at your koach, look at your ability, look where you are and what you could do, what you could accomplish. It's mind-boggling to even think like that. Rebbe is saying, don't think in little things. Look at your potential, you could really do crazy things. Don't look at yourself, you could be any person sitting here, if he wants to go to Harvard and graduate Harvard, I guarantee you have the ability to do that. You want to go to Harvard, graduate Harvard, you have an ability.
All you need is to want and realize your potential, what you have inside of you. You have a core of a soul. You have a Jewish soul that only a Jew has this core. You are part of God. Every single Jew is connected to Hashem. It says, "Chelek Elokam Mimale Mamash." Piece of God inside of every single one of you, from God connected to Hashem. Do you understand what does this mean? Do you understand what kind of gift is given to us? If you piece of Hashem, Hashem is unlimited. All you need to do is just to connect yourself to Hashem, and you will be unlimited. You could buy not one house, 5 houses. As a matter of fact, that guy did buy a house. He bought this 3-floor houses. 3-floor, and my friend, he was staying in that place. That's the problem. We underestimate our abilities, what we could do. I wanna, again, my time is up. If you have any questions,
I'll ask you personally afterwards. You can stick around.
okay. So more questions or what?
We got 2 questions.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay,
From Shirvan, special.
here.
Yeah.
Okay, my question was, before you were talking about giving, right? If this is true, and can you explain us this? I like your example of the kinneret and the young
Yeah.
people, right? But can giving too much be harmful, and why? If we're going by that mentality where it's give and action.
Very good question. Can giving too much will hurt you? You know what? I will say another story. I'm sorry, it's just I can't. There was a person who was sitting. I guess they will answer a question. I'm sorry if it's, I don't know if we will be limited to one question, but I want to answer this question. They will really answer a question. We will really answer. There was Rabbi Meir Shlomo Weiss, a very famous person who went through Holocaust. He was sitting in. He went through a crazy thing. He said, the last days of my life, the Nazis, the Germans, Ymach Shmam, they put us all in one big refrigerator room. And we were staying there, and we all knew we have like a few hours, like maybe 8-7 hours to live here. And as I was staying here, the door closed. And we all praying, like last chances, like last moments, let us survive somehow here. And I hear somebody's calling my name, Reb Shlomo, Reb Shlomo. He's like, who's here? He's like, hey, Yosel is here. Yosel, what are you doing here? We were davening together, we were praying together in the same synagogue. Yosel, what are you doing here? He's like, Reb Shlomo, I'm dying, I can't, it's so cold here. In this camera, can you massage my head, my back a little? Like, massage your head back. I'm barely staying myself. I have my, counted pieces of energy. If I will spend my energy on you, I will be dead myself. And I was thinking, should I spend my strength on him when I myself is limited? And then he said, Yosel is my friend. How could I not do that? I will be so egoistic not to do that. He said, okay, Yosel, I will do it. And he started massaging him, like with his hands. In 15 minutes, he sees, he hears, it's quiet. He thought to himself, why would I spend my time on somebody who is dead? He figured Yossi is dead. And he said, I was like, let me save my last bits of energy for myself. Maybe I will, survive another few hours to live. And he stopped. In 15 minutes, Reb Shlomo, I'm alive! Please continue! So he's like, oh, okay, I will continue. He continued massaging you. In 15 minutes again, it's quiet. He's like, should I stop? Probably I should stop. He stopped. He's like, barely staying himself. He's like, again, Reb Shlomo, I'm alive! Again, he continued. Back and forth. The whole morning, till the whole morning, he was doing him massaging and stopping. until he says, the doors open, Russian army. He says, the war is over. It was the last days of the war. They put all the people in the camera. It's like, the war is over. We are alive. He says, you cannot understand, you cannot comprehend what we went through. We are alive. He said, I turned back and I saw the whole room was people, everybody was dead. Except two people. Me, because I was massaging Yossi, and Yossi, because I was massaging him. So, what's the answer to it? By giving, he survived himself. I don't think there is such a thing as like a person could lose on giving. I don't know, maybe I'm not right. It's not like a halacha question. It's every case could be specific, could be, but just giving, being a kinneret, not Yam HaMelech. Yam HaMelech turns you into a salt. All the water goes into Yam HaMelech. But being a kinneret, you will always have a water. Always giving, it says in Maaser, giving tzedakah, for example. It says when a person gives tzedakah, it's guaranteed it will make him rich, for he will not become poor. So what is it? It's all rooted in the Torah. We see Hashem wants us to be proactive. Hashem wants us to give. He doesn't want us to just to take. Even to the children, I sometimes tell them, you know what, you will clean the room. I tell my wife, let's not give them ice cream sometimes. Let's just tell them, clean the room, you will get a clean room. What's the connection? You clean the room, you get the ice cream. What's that to do with that? You clean the room, you will get a clean room. By giving, you're creating something holy, something good, a godly world, a mitzvah-dik world. By giving, by doing actions, that's what Hashem wants. We think by just enjoying something, by just getting something, by just having this l'chaim, by hopping something, we will be happy. It's not the true happiness. The true happiness, when you're giving, a woman giving birth, you know what she's going through? Such a crazy pains, and then she's happy. She just gave. She went through such a painful process, and she's happy. This is happiness. The true happiness is when you're giving. The guy who is running, let's say, he comes to the finish line. First, he felt he's so sweaty, he can't stand. He just gave away everything, but he's happy. Why? Because he gave. It's not about just hopping, it's not about just taking, it's about giving. I want to wish everybody bracha v'atzlacha.
Real chunky things that someone can get their head around relatively easily and begin to build into his or her life. I hope that some of you, many of you, already know some of the ideas we've spoken about, how you live, how you think, how you approach things. Just take a step out there a little bit tonight and reach for something more. It's going to be a little less tangible, but very serious and important. Okay? We have this concept in the parashiyot, in the Shabbat readings that we're involved with now, that build around a certain idea. And that idea is, Ba'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. Anybody know what that means?
And I will build myself a mikdash is like a temple, and I will live in it. I think that's God, or God will live in it.
Great, excellent. So it's in the context of creating the tabernacle or the Mishkan that God will place His presence in, but the actual terms don't speak to something that the Jewish people build, but it's actually Vasuli Mikdash, make for me this sanctuary, and I will dwell in you. It would have been betocho, in it, if it was speaking about the sanctuary itself, but essentially it's talking about this idea of somehow, some way, we're going to be very real and specific with it, create for me this home, God says, so I can dwell inside you. Okay, nice, but what are we talking about? What does it mean on a practical level? How does it make me be happier? How does it make me more likely to find that most right person, for example, and build my life with that person? How does it make it more likely that I'm going to be happy or successful? Make the sanctuary so I can dwell within you. So let's see. Here again, I want to be very, very practical, and I want you to have real tools to grow and to build your lives with. So I want you to picture people you've noticed a lot. And they could be random people. And I want you to think about two people, if you can. Two random people whom you see often. Picture them for a minute and let me know if there's any subtle differences in how you perceive those people. And I'm going to give you something a little more specific. Person A walks into the room and I feel happy. Person B walks into the room and I feel a little bit tense or stiffen up or nervous. Person A walks into the room and I feel inspired. Person B walks into the room and I feel weakened or drained. Can you give me an example? Two people? One would bring feeling A and one would bring feeling B.
I should give you names.
No names, I don't want names, just the feeling. Okay?
For feeling drained, someone who's like a know-it-all and has to always be right and, talks about himself.
What would that person make you feel? Negative feeling, good.
And then the other one, someone who's upbeat and always happy and always giving to others.
Great. And what would that person make you feel? Positive. Good, good. Anybody else? What do you say?
With positive, someone whom I probably would look up to.
Right.
Someone who would be like a professor, a teacher,
Great.
Learning new things. Negative, someone who would always try to bring me down.
Fine, great. Now they don't have to say a word, right?
Yeah.
They just walk into the room and already you have a reaction to that person. They haven't said anything. Right? Good. What if it were to be more subtle than that? Is there a sense of another human being that's even more subtle, where you may not even know the person? You know the person, right? You've mentioned you know person A, so they evoke these feelings, person B, those feelings, and the same. But what if I don't even know the person? Is there a possibility? Yeah.
Like through energy or smiling?
Yes, through energy. Forget the smiling. Through energy.
Nice too.
No, smiling, great. Smiling's a giveaway. Give me the energy. Through energy. What's the energy?
Positive or negative?
Positive or negative. In Torah language, what do we call this energy? We don't call it positive, negative. We have our own words for it. What are they called? We call it tum'ah, impurity, or tahara, purity. Tum'ah, impurity, or tahara. Now, I'll tell you, in my own circles, I can call out the person who is very heavily invested in the impure side of things, and the person who is more invested on the pure side of things. And this has very little to do with keeping commandments. It's more subtle. And it's something that I think it's important for you to begin to think about and I hope begin to sensitize yourselves to. We know that our rabbis say things like, in Egypt, the Jewish people were on the lowest level, the lowest possible level, the depth of impurity. One step, so to speak, before becoming lost completely. At the same time, the rabbis will say, the Jewish people kept all the commandments that they had to keep at that time. So what's going on? What's going on is that there's something very subtle. But when you start to grow, as you are, in your commitment to Torah, and your identity as Jewish people committed to Torah, you're going to start to sense it. And you're going to start to sensitize yourselves to become more in line of the pure rather than the opposite. So let me give you a few examples. We say, for example, that a person's thoughts shape the person. In Judaism, we're focused on word and action, but we're also very focused on thought. So, what would you say? How might that work here? A person A has certain thoughts, and it becomes more pure with his energy, and person B impure in terms of his energy. How would that work? What types of, what would bring something like that to happen? What would you say? How do thoughts do it? If a person is thinking about helping somebody, that thought has power to create an energy, a purity in that person that will frame who that person is when he walks into the room. If someone, on the other hand, is thinking about stealing from somebody else, taking advantage of somebody else, hasn't done anything yet, that thought, just the thought, will color that person's persona and create an energy about that person when he walks into the room. Yes? No? What do you think? Does it make sense? It makes sense, and it's absolutely palpable. And as you become more sensitive, and as you grow more in your connectedness to Torah and to Jewish law and living, you'll sense it more. Some people, as you grow further and further along, some people will actually frighten you. They wouldn't have necessarily said anything or done anything, but you'll have a negative, a strong negative feeling from them. And we understand that it's because that what shapes their behavior, ultimately their thoughts, are impure, are negative, are destructive. So, the headline for tonight is, I want, as I grow and build my life, I want to be not only someone who's keeping Jewish law and being shaped and refined and improved by commandments, by mitzvot, but I want more than that. I want that very, very, very meticulous refinement that comes from the most subtle things that calls into the category of tahara, of purity. Step one is I have to start to manage my thoughts. To manage a person's thoughts, it means, who do I surround myself with? What do I read? Who do I hang around with? I'll give you a quick example. And I'm very much in the practical, real world. I used to be a huge football fan. I used to be a huge football fan way, way back when. I'm not a huge football fan anymore, but I was invited to somebody's house to watch the Super Bowl. And so I watched the second quarter and the halftime show. And I felt so violated. I felt so violated by the halftime show. I couldn't understand why in America, you would say, not the greatest country in the world. Really, I think most people would say the greatest country in the world. We believe the state of Israel is the greatest country, but why it had to be so trashy and low class. It was just really something. Now, when you get up from that show, you've been impacted by it. Your purity level is not the same as when you walked into that room. You're a human being, you're affected by everything going on around you. So whether your thoughts are that you liked it, that you didn't like it, it was crass, it was as low class as it gets, and as trashy as it gets, not as it gets, but close. So this idea of creating a sanctuary of my own where God can rest himself was distanced as a result of that experience. So as time goes on and you become more sensitive to these things, you're going to pick your spots because you want to be a holy vessel. Why not? It's beautiful. You're going to pick your spots. I made a mistake. I haven't watched a halftime show in umpteen years. I felt I had to stop by these people's house. I made a mistake. Okay. You're going to pick your spots and you're going to start to learn to manage even your thoughts. And pure thoughts yield a pure person, yields a pure energy, yields a more beautiful reality. Simple, straight. If I'm thinking anger, I'm going to evoke anger. If I'm thinking stress, that's what's going to be emitted from me. If I'm thinking happy, love, connection, vulnerability, sensitivity, that's what's going to come from me. Yeah.
But something like the halftime show, something like, the hip-hop culture or whatever, that's something we're surrounded by every day, especially, 21st century America. How do you...
Yeah, it's such a fantastic question. It really is a fantastic question. So, I really like the news. I'm going to give you an answer through this. I enjoy the news a lot. But I found that the news was making me angry. It was just making me angry.
I don't watch the news.
Good. It was making me angry. Right? Okay, it was making me angry.
Don't.
So even though the news is easier to access than ever before because we're in the 21st century, I now watch very, very, very little. It's overwhelmingly focused on Israel, which also makes me angry most of the time. But I've cut it down dramatically, and I've replaced that energy and that wantingness to know in reading other things. So you're absolutely right. We're in the 21st century. We're inundated by this. And your question is 1,000% on the mark. But if I want to be in a place of purity, where I'm building myself a certain way, I'm going to be a little bit in a cave. And I'm going to make choices every day to not dirty myself with stuff like this. And it's hard, because you're right. It's everywhere. All you have to do is turn on your phone. It's everywhere. But you know what? We have a very fascinating perspective which says that the more holy things get overall in the world, meaning the more God's presence is visible, and we believe this is an extraordinary time in Jewish history. God's presence might be more visible than it's been. It's certainly more visible than it's been in 2,000 years. We're probably approaching a point where it'll be more visible than it's ever been as the final Geulah manifests. We believe that the more visible the purity, the more visible the profane. The more visible the beautiful, the more overt, the more visible the disgusting. So your question is the question. It's a life struggle for all of us, particularly now, where not only is it more accessible than ever, but it's almost thrown at you even if you don't want it. And you got to pick your spots. Some people have flip phones. Some people, I don't subscribe to most of the newspapers anymore. I don't want to be hurt by them. I don't want to be dirtied by them. I don't want to do it. So I figure out how to manage a complex world by excluding myself from these things. It's not easy, and it's forever, and you're gonna dodge the bullet a lot and change your strategy a lot. Okay? It's not a straight answer. You're going to have to deal with it and maneuver as you go. But if you have that sensitivity and that awareness, you're halfway there. Because you care. And
It's
you're
not
aware.
only about like the music culture. It's, you know, Lashon Hara, you know, everything.
The world is more disgusting than ever, and the world is more pure and beautiful than ever. We've never had more people on the planet learning Torah. Ever. Ever. We believe that there were more tefillin on the battlefield in Gaza than there even were at the time of King David's armies. We live in the most spectacular time, if not the most spectacular time in Jewish history, the second most spectacular time in Jewish history. But as the purity grows, the profanity grows. And that's what we got to manage. A couple of other tools that we have. Thought, we said, is number one. The second, a person's language and words are very, very, very defining. In other words, one of my high school teachers told me once, many years ago, that any word can be a four-letter word. Any word can be a four-letter word, meaning a person has to be very sensitive to his language and choose the words, his or her words, based on his life station. Meaning, the lay leadership of this program, for example, people who have dedicated their lives to all of you, their language has to even be better than yours. And when you, all of you, as you continue to grow and take on leadership positions in your community, your language, the words you choose, have to get better and sweeter and finer. When you express your love and make a lifetime commitment to someone, then language should be refined and improved, because now you're at a different place. Now you must function on a higher level. When you become a parent, there again, porn, take a walk, sit in front of a book, think, what language is simply inappropriate for me today? What do you mean? Wasn't inappropriate for me yesterday, but my wife gave birth today. Or my child turned 4 today and can understand me like he couldn't before. Or my child became a teenager. Or I became the father of someone who just got married. What do you mean? My language has to change? That's right. We have a term called Lashon Sagi Nahor. Means to speak with a beautiful tongue. As if pearls, drops of pearls of wisdom are coming from your mouth. Now here again, can I say a lot of things and not violate Jewish law? Yeah. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about building this beautiful, pure vessel that we want to become. So again, how do we start? Thoughts. How do we continue? We continue with words. And now I want to touch on something else. And this is an area that was a very tough thing for my community. Very, very tough thing for my community. And our community is still growing in this respect. And it applies to men and women. It applies to everybody. One of the one of the things that we had to come to terms with in our community, and the community is still growing in this respect, is that, and I'm going to say it in a silly kind of way, but you are what you wear. You are what you wear. And I'm not talking about women specifically, I'm talking about men and women. As time goes on, it's important to appreciate that the outside wrapping, although you would think it's just a wrapping, it's external, it doesn't impact the inside. In Judaism, it very much does. We believe that a person's clothing, the beged of the human being, is not simply cotton or wool or whatever, but it has an energy and a power that resonates inside the person. One of my rabbis told me once, Ricky, if you're going to build your life in the direction you're going now, you can't wear jeans anymore. What do you mean? I wear jeans. Can't wear jeans anymore. I had umpteen pairs of jeans in my closet. You want to wear jeans in your backyard? Wear them in your backyard. You want to continue to invest yourself in the things that you want to invest in your life, in your family, in your business, in the community? Jeans don't work. Wait a minute. There's nothing immodest about the jeans. They just don't fit. It was a big step for me. For a number of years I didn't wear jeans because I had taken on a certain position in my community and represented certain things. And then for a short time period I put them back on. And I don't want to sound like something out there, but I'll tell you with all my heart, it was a big step down for me. Not because there was anything inappropriate or immodest. They were just not fitting to me anymore. We have an interesting thing in Masechet Tzedachim, in the tractate of the Gemara, that talks about the sacrifices that we bring and what makes a sacrifice permissible and what makes a sacrifice, what violates a sacrifice. And our rabbis say a fascinating thing, that if the Cohen, the priest, mixed up his clothing, if he wore the clothing of the high priest, or the high priest wore his clothing, or he just mixed up the order of the clothing when putting it on, the sacrifice is not valid. It's pasul. What are you talking about? Who cares? He did all the steps of the sacrifice were done as prescribed. So what does the clothing have to do with anything? The reality is, clothing makes the man. Clothing makes the lady. So here again, as we begin to grow, and it's very interesting that you see very often that when people start to make a commitment in their lives to more involvement in Judaism, one of the first things people often do is begin to dress differently. And it always surprised me because I didn't understand it. I said, wait a minute, the person really doesn't know anything about Shabbat. The person really isn't really keeping kosher much now. Why are they suddenly dressing so differently? And I really thought in the beginning when I first saw it, I said, you know what, maybe it's just disingenuous. Maybe it's just a show. But I was wrong. And they're right. Because when you change your clothing, you change your persona. You change that sense of purity that is you. I'll give you another silly example. I was one of the first people in my community to put a kippah on many years ago. There were very few people. People in the Syrian community would cover their heads when they ate, of course when they prayed, but very few people would walk around with a kippah. I'm talking about many years ago. So when I put a kippah on my head, people were uncomfortable. Some people pulled it off my head. My father, when I started working and we had stores in these nasty areas in New York City, was very concerned about it, but I kept it on, and now it's been a number of decades where it never went off my head. Putting the kippah on my head, I did for two reasons. One, because our rabbis say that that's the way a Jewish man should walk around. But no less important, maybe for me at the time, more important, is because it helped me define myself and figure out what I wanted to be and how I wanted to live my life. When I put the kippah on my head, it allowed me to do certain things and pretty much disqualified certain things. And as I was growing in my Judaism and my commitment to Jewish law, that was very important to me. So, clothing, how we present ourselves, not only impacts the people who see us, of course, but that's important, but much less important. But it impacts me. It resonates inside of me. It helps me figure out me. A handful of, not so long ago, I decided that I wanted my kippah to be bigger. These things sound so silly. They sound silly. I wanted it to be bigger because I wanted to move my life more in a specific direction. So move your life in that direction with the same kippah you've been wearing for many, many years. But I felt that the change of the kippah, the updating of the dress, in this sense, would enable me to reach to another level. And as silly as it sounds, it did, and it does. So, in summary, we talked about some very tangible things, and we'll continue to talk about physical, tangible things, character traits, practices, things that we've talked about the last handful of weeks as we've shared ideas. But I want you to also start thinking about the seemingly less tangible, which in truth are not less tangible at all. And as you grow and you project yourself to the people around you, as you begin to project yourself to that most right person, God willing, how you present yourself, whether it be the energy that you create for yourself with your thoughts, the energy you create with your words, or the energy you create with how you dress, will have a very big impact on others. But many, 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 many more times more important than that will be the impact it has on you. When I walk into my office or the synagogue with a sport jacket, it's one head that I'm in. When I walk in with a suit, it's different. Isn't this all silly? Isn't it all just outer garb? The answer is, from a Jewish perspective, not at all. It's just not. So as you continue to build your lives, what's so inspiring to me is I see almost all of you come back week after week. It's so fantastic. It's something you should all be, and I know you're very, very proud of, because you've taken and you're taking some very important steps in your lives to define yourselves and to create a real identity for yourselves. And most importantly, based on that, to build lives that are happy and very fulfilling for yourselves. Think about all those elements. And when you get up in the morning, or you change for your evening, whatever it is, think about how you want to feel about you, and how what you put on will go a long way in saying something. Again, to the other person, true, but most importantly to you. So when we create this sanctuary within ourselves that we want God to rest in, the one who's going to, and at some point, someone who will come into our lives is that forever love to rest in as well. The person that needs to be there first is us. Our thoughts, words, and how we present ourselves. Good? Questions? No? All right, Joel. Thank you. See you soon.